Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the parliament, okay? And these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, like the introduction part, organization of parliament, composition of two houses, system of elections to the Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of parliament, presiding officers of parliament, leaders in parliament, sessions of parliament, devices of parliamentary proceedings, legislative procedure in parliament, joint sitting of two houses, budget in parliament, multifunctional role of parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, position of Rajya Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of parliament. All right, these are the topics that comes under this particular series. Out of this, we have done with the introduction part, organization of parliament, composition of two houses, system of elections to Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of parliament, presiding officers of parliament, leaders in parliament, sessions in parliament, and the topic on which we have been discussing is the devices of parliamentary proceedings. All right, then the remaining topics are legislative procedure, joint sitting, budget, multifunctional role, ineffectiveness, position of Rajya Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of parliament. Okay, so this is the picture that we have created so far altogether. All right, in the previous lecture, basically we had discussed two concepts like question hour, okay, and second one was zero hour. Okay, so just let's revise them one by one in a quick manner. So basically, if we talk about the first one, which is the questioning hour, so we know questioning hour generally happens at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the first sitting. Okay, then 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. in post lunch sitting. All right, in the questioning hour, there are three types of questions that could be asked to the ministers and even to the private members, the persons who belong to the membership but they do not holding any particular department or the ministry. Okay, questions are stay at questions, unstayed questions, and thereafter comes short notice question. All right, that is the thing. If we talk about the stayed question, so we know that this question requires a immediate answer and this could be answered orally or verbally. Okay, and because it is orally or verbally, so the supplementary questions could be asked. Okay, but if we talk about the unstated question, so remember these questions could not be answered orally or verbally, and these are answered or expressed in the written form. Okay, that is the reason that no supplementary question could be asked. All right, that is a thing. After this, if we talk about the last category, which is the short notice. Okay, so in the short notice, the questions which are asked on the short notice of less than 10 days. Okay, and there is a choice which is provided whether to give the answer orally or verbally. All right, that is a thing. And if after finishing the questioning hour, if we talk about the 0 hour, so this is comes immediately after question hour, right? All right, and remember that the 0 hour is basically not even mentioned in the rules of procedure. Okay, so from where it comes, basically this was introduced in the year of 1962. Okay, until then today it is been the system. Okay, so these are the things that we have covered in the previous lecture. I have just reminded it for you. Now let's start with the today's topic. So basically in the devices of parliamentary proceedings, now we are going to talk about the motions. Okay, so remember, no discussion on a matter of general public importance can take place except on a motion made with the consent of the presiding officer. Okay, it means that if any member of the parliament wants to discuss a matter which is of the general public importance, okay, so he or she is allowed, but until or unless the motion is expressed, no discussion could be held. Okay, so first the person who wants to discuss this requires to pass the particular motion. Okay, and for the passing of the motion, the presiding officer will give the assent. Okay, the house expresses its decisions or opinions on various issues through the adoption or rejection of motions moved by either ministers or the private members. Okay, these motions moved by the members to raise discussions on various matters fall into the three principal categories. Like you can say, here we are not talking about the motions, but here we are talking about the matters which having the three principal categories on which we could divide them. Okay, and the common thing between them is general public importance. Okay, the first is substantive motion. Okay, so if we talk about it, it is a self-contained independent proposal dealing with a very important matter like impeachment of the president or removal of chief election commissioner. Okay, we know that the removal of president or the chief election commissioner could not be done until or unless the process of impeachment. Okay, and we know the impeachment requires decisions, voting, and special majority. Okay, but the very first step of the voting itself requires very first step of decision itself requires the motion first. Until or unless the motion would pass, no discussion could be held on it. Okay, so whenever the motion pass for the discussion which containing the removal of president or the chief election commissioner, then it is known as the substantive motion. Okay. Now come to the next one, which is the substitute motion. What is that? It is a motion that is moved in a substitution of an original motion and proposes an alternative to it. If adopted by the House, it supersedes the original motion. Alright, it means that suppose some XYZ motion passed in the House, alright, and the discussion start on it. And due to some reason, the House think that the XYZ motion should be substitute, or you can say removed, and then the new discussion should be held. So for this kind of things, whatever motion would be passed, that will be known as the substitute motion. Okay. After this, substitutory motion. It is a motion that by itself has no meaning and cannot state the decision of the House without reference to the original motion or proceeding of the House. It means that during the proceedings of the XYZ motion, some informations were missing. So the ABC motion passed, okay, to fulfill this gap. And this ABC motion will be known as the substitutory motion. Got it? That's the thing. After this, these three you can say broad categories like substantive motion. Just write them again so that you could keep it in your mind for a long time. Substantive motion, subsidiary motion, and substitute motion. Okay, these three motions: substantive motion, subsidiary motion, and the substitute motion. All right, these three motions further divided into the three subcategories. Okay, and what are these three subcategories? The first category is ancillary motion. Okay, what is that? It is used as the regular way of proceeding with various kind of business. Okay, thereafter, superseding motion. It is moved in the course of debate on another issue and seeks to supersede that issue. It means that the new discussion should be held. Amendment motion. So basically, it seeks to modify and substitute only a part of the original motion, not the entire motion. Okay, like the case of substitute one. All right. So these are the three subcategories. So we can say broadly the matters of the motions are divided into the three main headings. Substantive motion. Okay. Then comes the substitute motions. Thereafter, what comes the subsidiary motions. All right. And then the three sub motions are ancillary motion, the first one, supersede motion, third one, and then comes the amendment motion. All right. So that is the division of matters in motions. Okay, so keep this thing in your mind. After this, the next thing that we could see here is the closer motion. So what do you mean by this? It is a motion moved by a member to cut short the debate on a matter before the House. Okay, if the motion is approved by the House, the debate is stopped forthwith with the matter is put to vote. Like I had told you, first the motion will pass, then the discussion would happen, then the voting will done, then the majority or minority will decide. Right, that will the thing. Okay, so here suppose in the starting I have told you the matter are always of the general public importance, right? So you can say suppose the matter has been discussing in the House, all right, and the matter and the discussion goes on long and long, all right, and the matter's importance requires a short time to be implemented. So what can happen? A member could move a closer motion, which means that the state of discussion would be directed towards the state of voting. Okay, so the time which is taken by the discussion, this time will be cut short, and you can say the matter will put for the voting, and after the voting the majority or the minority will decide on the basis of passing, you can say passing or failure of the legislation would be decided. Okay, there are 4 kinds of closure motions. What are these kinds? The first kind is the simple closure. What is that? It is one when a member moves that matter having been sufficiently discussed be now put to vote. Like I have told you, if the discussion part taking a long time and the matter is of the general public importance on the urgent basis, so it's become important that the discussion phase should be completed and the matter is to be you can say transferred for the voting process. All right, so for this kind of things, whatever the motion in the heading of the closure motion would be passed, that will be known as the simple closure. Okay, after this, closure by compartments. What are this? In this case, the clauses of a bill or a lengthy resolution are grouped into parts before the commencement of debate. The debate covers the part as a whole and the entire part is put to vote. Like suppose if we talk about you can say any particular bill. Bill contains the 4 provisions A, B, C and D. Alright. So the discussion may be on the entire bill or any part of it. Okay. And similarly, entire bill could be transferred for the voting or any part of it could be transferred for the voting. Alright. So if the condition is that the bill has been discussing in the House for a long time, alright, and some of the provisions require the immediate implementation, then what could happen? The member could process the closure by compartments so that certain provisions, I'm not saying the entire bill, I'm saying that certain provisions of the bill could be transferred for the process of voting so that the majority and the minority could be decided. Got it? After this, another is a kangaroo closure. What is that? Under this type, only importance clauses are taken up for debate and voting and the intervening clauses are skipped over and taken as passed. Like if you have ever seen a kangaroo, so what he do? Like if A, B, C, D, E and F, these are the certain points which he is required to reach that place. So he will start with A, skip B, reach C. Then from C to E, skip, yeah, you can say D. Then from E directly to the target, skip F. So here you can say that he Instead of completing the entire task, he is skipping some tasks. Similar things happen in the kangaroo closure also. Like you can say, if A, B, C, D, E, and F, these all are the parts of some bill which has been discussing in the house. Okay, so it is not necessary that the entire provisions would be discussed until or unless the provisions are of the highly importance. If they are normal and if they are of the minor importance, then what could happen? That the house could deny to discuss these facts, okay, and would only take the matters which are important. All right, so that the process could be shortened, and you can say the voting process could be started soon, and even the important matters which are of the highly public importance, they could be discussed effectively and efficiently. All right, thereafter, guillotine closure. What is it? It is one when the undiscussed clauses of a bill or resolution are also put to vote along with the discussed ones due to want of time, as the time allotted for the discussion is over. Okay, so you can say, suppose this is a certain bill, okay, and the bill having A, B, C, D, and F. Okay, all these are the provisions, and in a hypothetical situation, the 1 hour time for the discussion has been allotted by whom? Who could appoint the time? The presiding officer. All right. So the presiding officer of the house said while presenting the bill that okay, the house having 1 hour to discuss, then the bill will be put for the voting. Then what happened? Once the house started the discussion over the bill, they could only discuss A, C, and D. Okay. And the remaining ones like the B and E provisions remain undiscussed. Okay. But what happened? The allotted time for the discussion, which is the 1 hour, that has been over. Okay. So as per the instructions which have been received from the presiding officer, after the 1 hour, the bill would be put for the voting. All right. So what will happen? Not only A, C, and D, these are the discussed matters. Not only these will be put for the vote, but the remaining provisions which couldn't be discussed, they will also put for the voting. So you can say the entire bill would be put for the voting, and the resolution which is required to be passed, that is known as the guillotine closure. All right. So these are the 4 ones. Simpler closure wins when the entire bill is required to put on the vote and the discussion is required to be stopped. Then the simple closure could be passed. Closure by compartments. Not the entire bill is required for the voting, but some of the parts of this bill would be proceed further for the voting if the provisions were of the great public importance. Thereafter, in the kangaroo closure, instead of discussing all the facts and figures and all the provisions of the bill, the main provisions would be discussed and the rest of the provisions would be implemented as the passing by. Last one is the guillotine closure. What does it mean? It means that once the allotted time for the discussion would be over, doesn't matter whether the matter has been discussed or not, the entire bill would be put for the voting. All right. So this is the closure motion. So students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we would continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.